The moment Prince William decided there would be no road back for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, he didn't announce it from a palace balcony. He didn't hold a press conference. He didn't issue a dramatic royal decree. Instead, something far more chilling began happening behind palace walls. The very home that once symbolized Harry and Meghan's future inside the monarchy is now being dismantled piece by piece. And according to many royal observers, this isn't just about a house, it's about a final verdict.
He retains his title, his dukedom, his place in the line of succession. He just doesn't have to follow any of the rules. The late Queen foresaw danger in such an arrangement, which is precisely why she killed it at Sandringham. Harry is now resurrecting it, daring his father to strip the titles. That would make it less sellable.
For years, Prince Harry has appeared determined to keep one foot inside the royal world while building an entirely separate life outside it. Yet the late Queen Elizabeth II saw the danger of that arrangement immediately. She understood that royalty could not function as a part-time occupation. Either you accepted the duties, restrictions, and responsibilities, or you walked away. There was no middle ground, no special exceptions, no customized version of monarchy built around personal convenience. That was the principle established at Sandringham. The line was drawn, the choice was made. But what if someone never truly accepted that choice? That question has been haunting the monarchy ever since Harry and Meghan departed for North America. Because while public statements changed, interviews came and went, and projects launched and collapsed, one thing remained surprisingly consistent: the persistent feeling that the Sussexes never entirely abandoned the possibility of reconnecting themselves to royal relevance. And now, according to many watching closely, William has decided enough is enough. The evidence isn't found in speeches. It's found in Frogmore Cottage. The property once represented everything. It wasn't merely a residence. It was a royal blessing, a wedding gift from Queen Elizabeth herself, a place inside the Windsor estate, a symbol of trust, a symbol of belonging, a symbol of permanence. Yet now, something extraordinary is happening. The renovations Harry and Meghan commissioned are reportedly being stripped away. The famous upgrades that once generated headlines the yoga studio, luxury fixtures, customized interiors, expensive redesigns, all of it is being removed. The property is reportedly being returned to its earlier purpose. That detail might sound administrative. It isn't, because symbolism is the language monarchy speaks better than anyone. When institutions want to preserve history, they preserve buildings. When institutions want to move on, they repurpose buildings. But when institutions want to erase a chapter entirely, they remove the evidence. And that's why this story has sent shockwaves through royal watchers. The message feels unmistakable. Not you left. Not even you are no longer here. But something much harsher. You are no longer part of the future. That distinction changes everything. Because while King Charles often appears trapped between his responsibilities as monarch and his emotions as a father, William seems increasingly focused on something else entirely: protecting the institution at all costs. Many insiders describe two completely different mindsets operating inside the royal family. Charles still carries traces of hope for reconciliation, hope that conversations could happen, hope that family bonds might eventually overcome years of damage. William, according to multiple reports, appears to have moved beyond hope. What remains is calculation. Cold, methodical, strategic, and Frogmore may be the clearest example yet. To understand why this matters so much, you have to remember what Frogmore represented at the beginning. When Harry and Meghan moved in, the narrative was completely different. They were viewed as the monarchy's future, a modern royal couple expected to strengthen the institution for decades to come. The renovations reflected that expectation. Millions were invested, plans were approved, resources were allocated. Nobody behaves that way for temporary guests. Those decisions reflected confidence. Then came the departure. Then came the interviews. Then came the documentaries. Then came the memoir. And with each passing year, the gap between the Sussexes and the institution grew wider. What makes the current moment fascinating is that the palace appears less interested in fighting than in forgetting. Think about that carefully. Fighting acknowledges significance. Forgetting removes it. That may be why the Frogmore situation feels so final, because nobody is arguing anymore. Nobody is negotiating. Nobody appears interested in another round of explanations. The machinery of monarchy is simply moving forward, and institutions that have survived centuries understand something individuals often don't. Time is their greatest weapon. Every year Harry and Meghan spend further from the royal center weakens the connection. Every year outside makes a return harder. Every year creates a new reality. William appears to understand this perfectly. Reports suggest he has become increasingly resistant to anything that could create pathways back into royal life. Security security disputes, public appearances, institutional connections. Even seemingly small decisions now appear connected to a larger strategy. Reduce proximity, reduce association, reduce dependency, eventually remove the possibility altogether. And that's where the story becomes truly explosive, because many observers believe the demolition of Frogmore's Sussex-era identity isn't about the past. It's about preventing a future where Harry regains a permanent foothold inside royal life, a future where commercial ventures once again benefit from direct royal association, a future where the half-in, half-out model rejected by Queen Elizabeth quietly reappears under a different name. William seems determined to stop that before it ever begins. The question now is whether this is merely the latest chapter in an ongoing family feud or the beginning of something much larger. Because if Frogmore is being erased, what else could be next? What makes this story even more explosive is that Frogmore Cottage may only be the visible symbol of a much larger battle that has been unfolding behind palace walls for years. Because when you strip away the headlines, the interviews, the documentaries, and the endless public speculation, the central question has never really changed. Who controls the future of the monarchy? And according to many royal observers, Prince William has now answered that question with unmistakable clarity. There is a reason so much attention keeps returning to security arrangements, titles, housing, and official status. These issues may appear separate on the surface, but they all connect to one thing: access. Access to Britain, access to royal events, access to proximity, access to relevance. William reportedly understands that every inch of institutional connection creates opportunities for the Sussex brand to remain tied to royal prestige. That is why the current strategy appears so relentless. It is not emotional, it is structural. The more distance that exists between Harry and the institution, the harder it becomes to maintain the image of a royal insider. And that reality creates a serious problem for a public identity that has been built almost entirely around royal association. For years, Harry and Meghan seemed convinced that they could build an entirely new empire outside palace walls while still benefiting from the status that came from their royal ties. But critics increasingly argue that the formula never worked as expected. Major deals generated headlines but often struggled to sustain momentum. Public enthusiasm that once seemed unstoppable gradually cooled. The excitement surrounding their departures slowly transformed into questions about what exactly came next. And perhaps that is why William appears so determined to close every remaining door. Because from his perspective, every reopened connection risks restarting the same cycle: return, visibility, publicity, commercial opportunity. The pattern is obvious enough that many royal commentators believe William sees straight through it. That brings us to the most uncomfortable question of all. What happens years from now? What happens when Archie and Lilibet grow older and begin asking questions? Questions about Frogmore, questions about Britain, questions about why their relationship with the royal family became so distant, questions about opportunities that disappeared before they were old enough to understand them. That is the emotional core of this entire saga. Not the titles, not the renovations, not even the family feuds. The children. Because while adults make decisions, children inherit consequences. And somewhere inside this increasingly complicated royal drama sits a future generation that had absolutely no role in creating it. Meanwhile, William's position appears stronger than ever. His wife, Catherine, has continued to earn enormous public sympathy and admiration during extraordinarily difficult personal circumstances. Her approach has reinforced everything the monarchy wants to project: duty, stability, resilience, and service. The contrast between that image and the chaos surrounding the Sussex narrative has only widened the gap. That contrast matters because institutions survive through comparison. People naturally look at two paths and decide which one appears more successful. William knows this. The palace knows this. And increasingly, the public seems to know it too, which is why the demolition of Frogmore feels less like a property decision and more like a historical marker. A line drawn in stone, a declaration without words, a message delivered through actions instead of statements. The monarchy is not preparing for reconciliation. It is preparing for permanence. And perhaps that is the most shocking realization of all. For years, many believed this story would eventually end with some grand reunion, a dramatic family healing, a carefully choreographed return, a royal reset. But what if that ending was never coming? What if the institution quietly reached its conclusion long ago? What if every removal, every restructuring, every administrative decision has simply been part of a slow and deliberate process of making one reality impossible to ignore? Because when a monarchy that has survived centuries decides to move forward, it rarely does so with noise. It does so so with patience, it does so with time, and most importantly, it does so with finality. The walls of Frogmore may soon look different, the renovations may disappear, the physical reminders may be removed, but the symbolism will remain impossible to miss. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle once stood at the center of the monarchy's future. Now, according to many watching this extraordinary saga unfold, the future king appears determined to ensure that chapter remains firmly in the past. And if that is truly the case, then what we are witnessing is not another royal dispute. It is the final stage of a separation that began years ago and is only now reaching its inevitable conclusion.